The subject of early music is a comprehensive one. Let us venture upon it through the perspective of the musicians of the early music ensemble Harmonia Antiqua Labazensis. Performing early music is quite different from performing contemporary compositions, because it requires other qualities to be expressed musically. What attracts musicians to take up early music pieces and convey the spirit of their time?
For me, the difference basically is the freedom that you have. Of course, that you have a lot of points that you have to know. It's not that you play as you want, but you have some freedom.
I perform Baroque music, or the old-time music, mostly because it really cleans me up inside. That's maybe strange to say, but since I'm a classical violinist, so most of the time I'm doing classical music. And here I play Baroque viola, so this is completely different feeling, and also in technical sense, but also in artistical sense, and mostly in my inner self. It's completely different. So I choose to do it because it really completely changes my perception of music for that period of time when I'm doing old-time music, old music.
Probably everybody has some special period in the history of music that they prefer. It's not a thing of intellect. It's not possible to say why this is more interesting. I personally also do a lot of contemporary music, a lot of 19th century music. I try to do really a lot of different styles, but then again I always try to figure out the exact style, to separate the styles, to separate the music, not to play just everything in the same way. I really try to find out the certain, well, what makes this style special, I would say.
Conveying the message of early music requires the knowledge of the specific performance techniques, especially since the music of that time was highly ornamented. How important are the technical skills on the one hand and the interpretation on the other? How much freedom do the musicians have in interpreting the music and in their own expression?
Freedom, I mean, what does one mean by freedom? I mean, you have freedom of expression.
Okay.
So, you know, for instance, I could say to you, find a tree, and everybody could look at this tree in a different way. I think it's the same with music. It's a bit like you look at a score, and it's like reading a map. So in your imagination, you might have an understanding of what the landscape will be like, but when you get there, there's always changes. It depends if it's the sun is shining or if it's raining, and it's the same with music. So you look at it, but it's teamwork. So you might have an idea of how it's going to sound, but then when you come together with your colleagues and you're interpreting the music as a team, then you hear different colors and then you respond all the time to what you're hearing. So I think it's a bit like that.
17th century, the music, you have a lot of freedom there. And sometimes you have to fool the passages of music with the ornaments or these minutions that you improvise. And we can compare it with the jazz, for example. For me, I did some 1 year for a year. I did jazz violin, and I found this similitude between both.
I think in the end, the result is important. That means also interpretation, and technique should help the interpretation. So the aim is always to have a good interpretation, not a good technique. But without a good technique, you won't have a good interpretation.
In my opinion, technical skills is necessary because it is the bottom line of good playing of every instrument. So in order to have a higher level, which actually comes from interpretation, you need to have a good foundation. But on the other hand, no matter how good your technical skills are, if there is nothing above that, which means a higher level and higher feelings and higher ideas about the music you're playing, then I think that technical skills are less important in this matter.
To understand it, it's of course there's a lot of freedom and it's very personal how to understand it. And we also ask to play a lot of ornaments in this kind of music. So we know that they played much more than it was written, and it's the same nowadays, that the notation is somehow a very pure language. So it's not like that they can write everything. Maybe it's like a recipe. If you read how to make some bread, you have written what you have to put into, but it doesn't mean that your bread will get really good. So that's your freedom to deal with the information you get.
We can't change some things, but in the dynamic of a group like we are working now with, there is a lot of discussion. I mean, I have the role here as a leader or director, but it is not a very, how can you say, verticalistic organization. We discuss a lot, and maybe I just coordinate and try to help to reach the final stage or the point of in a discussion. But the work of bringing together this music is that you have to elaborate together the ways that, for example, the subject and the counter subject of a fugue are played the same way in every instrument. one of our main jobs, to work in a way that we end speaking the same language.
Was möchtest du, oder was hast du auszusetzen an dem Stück?
Für mich war es war manchmal, manche haben viel stärker artikuliert als andere.
Was noch unterschiedlich ist, sind die ersten 3 Auftakte.
Ja, ich glaube, es ist so.
Nee.
Also ich glaube, es ist manchmal ein bisschen die Gefahr, dass sie zu schwer sind. Das wäre so ein bisschen.
Ja, es geht zur nächsten Eins.
Ja, es ist so. Aber es ist noch leicht, also es ist schön. Ja, nur es darf keine.
Bearing all that in mind, what does the rehearsal process look like? What are the possible differences or specialties in rehearsing early music?
83?
Case, there is a lot of discussion. It would be a fallacy to pretend that we know how music was done at the time. We try. It will be always a goal, but if we pretend that we are there, that we achieved it, it's a lie. Many things are subject of discussion always, or of speculation, and there you have to find theories, compromises, etc. So that makes our rehearsals maybe more. We discuss more, we speculate more, we have to interchange opinions. It also, of course, it depends a little bit on the dynamics of every group. If it's a group which, produce together a piece or the result of a piece, or if it's really if there is a director who says this is done this way, no discussion.
Yeah, just have to listen to what he said. Before the last one, then
Okay, yes.
Il timet, nil pavet, cor audiens et forte, in fera cui morte vece expar. Yeah, does that make sense?
3, they will go faster in the second, in the repeat.
Yeah.
So probably the second one is more.
The better.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think that Papa should be very fast, very.
The first one is more
right away. Yeah.
The question is what you need to practice, and when you get a feeling for the style, you can also be creative at rehearsing, the same as you would be with contemporary music, where you have really difficult scores, a lot of music to read, then you have to invent some methods how to learn this in a fast way. You also, it's nice, every musician should probably invent some methods for a certain element that needs to be rehearsed. Ornaments, if I play music that is highly ornamented, as a lot of music was at that time, then I have to figure out a way to practice, to rehearse the ornaments so they will sound free and as they are supposed to be played. So I have to invent some method, but that's only after you have a frame of what elements this music needs.
The difference in rehearsing early music, for me, it's only that I have to prepare mentally for it, and by that I mean that I really have to find a sort of peace again inside me, in which I can then find the ideas or the sounds or the feelings that I wish to express on my instrument. That is not always easy, because it's a very hectic world out there, and sometimes I can say it's a very hectic work to do concerning classical music, and then suddenly you're thrown 250 or 350 years backwards. And if I want to do it in a really good way, then I have to put everything else aside, meaning that the preparation consists only of doing it in my head first. And then I can find everything else, or try to find everything else that I need in order to make this music sound really as it should be, of course, inside the ensemble.
Yeah, I try to just to know music of this period, to get used to the language, and yeah, you have just to play and play and play.
In rehearsing and performing early music, a very important trait of a musician seems to be their overall ability to collaborate. And what are some other essential qualities that a good early music performer should possess?
In the Baroque field, I would say the power of persuasion. I don't know if this word is right. It's not so much about impressing people. If you are a virtuoso or a big athlete, it's more of making a clear bridge of communication to the public, and bringing a persuasive message to them. That is for me far more important than virtuoso, or there are some things, of course, for a musician should be the basis. There's no discussion of it. You must play. You have to have a clean technique, good intonation, good sound. You have to have the idea of sound in your mind. Otherwise, you cannot produce it. So this is basic. But then, what is more important is the bridge, the way to touch the audience. That was always a goal in Baroque performance at the time. People shouldn't go out of a concert the same way they came in. They have some change must happen.
I think first of all, you should be very open-minded and have open ears to react on the others. Then, for me, it's very important to really try to feel what the composer wanted to say. That means also to forget a bit the own rules or the own, how to say, yeah, the thing you think which is right, because sometimes it's not like that. So really try to to get the information, and somehow it's really very intuitive. I think that's the most important things.
For me, it's a different between classical performers. Now, with the Baroque music, you have to be very open to change a lot of things, to discover different sounds, different kind of playing. For me, it's very important to be open. Yes, it's like there's another world. It's like discover another world in music.
There are so many small details that cannot be rehearsed. It's not, you don't have time for that. You cannot prepare the material so everything would be written in the material. So everything needs to be rehearsed while playing. So you need an open ear, and you need a positive openness towards other people, so you get every member of the ensemble behaves as the real part of ensemble, not just 5 people playing.
The openness of the mind, the ability of persuasion, and the willingness to adapt your own vision to the understanding of the motives of the composer are very important. What kind of role is that of good, constructive relationships between ensemble members?
That's incredibly important. I feel as a singer that I'm just part of them. I don't feel that they are accompanying me, that we are all together. The only difference for me is I have the text to sing. So this adds another level to the music. So very often, always the text is there first. The text inspires the composer. The composer is then inspired to write the music, and as the performer, I'm then inspired, I suppose, by both of those forces. And it's up to me to bring this together and make it work, so that then the next level is to pass this on to the audience, so that they get from the music the richness in the best way possible, I think.
In chamber music, the most important, because you're only one, and they're one out of, let's say here, 7. It depends again on the music, but play the early music, if I can say this in general, it's never only one important figure and everybody else just accompanying. It's always more of the ensemble playing together, so it's just the most important things.
Between the musicians, you mean? Yeah, that's very important, because you should really feel the music at a certain moment in the same way, and therefore it's also important to feel the person. So I think it's hard to play together if you really don't like each other. It's easier if you like each other, because then you can follow better what the other wants to do. And it should always be a consensus, and it's easier to find a consensus with people where the relationship is going on well.
So make more place for every time the new start. And isn't it a little bit too slow?
I thought so, yes.
I thought so. It starts on every note. I mean, it starts with the first part, because the first part is an upbeat.
I just thought it was a little. I think it should be calm, but quite precise. I mean, with a very steady beat. I think we need that from the beginning.
can start softer, I think. But more important than that, I thought we agreed on bowings. I mean, we can discuss it again if you don't like it. But we at least we do the dactyly shirt, but this way. I don't know. Huh? Yesterday I thought we agreed on.
Human relations make a good human relation make music only more agreeable or communicative. That means that you will find a way of understanding and also of communicating between musicians and also to the audience, which goes far beyond being together or things like that. It is quite a theoretic thing and maybe a thing you cannot measure exactly. You know, there are some very famous string quartets who no doubt were excellent, perfect, and that and the first and second violin player they didn't speak to each other since 10 years. Also with bad relation, a group can sound well. It's a matter of professionality. But I believe that it is even better if there's a basis of understanding which goes beyond or deeper than just playing the right notes in the right place.
Katie Green would once say, "Music isn't just learning notes and playing them. You learn notes to play to the music of your soul." What does early music and music in general mean to these musicians personally, and in what ways does it influence their lives?
It means, first of all, happiness and a way of touching and communicating and speaking where no language can reach. It's I would say, almost religious experience, because when you are not able to find a word or explain, it has to come to intuition or to, I don't know. Music is the next step. It's the non-verbal communication par excellence.
I have the impression my life is about music. I almost don't have much time for anything else, unfortunately. But I don't know. I mean, I'm very happy when I see people coming to concert and they look happy and perhaps they feel better. It's like. Yeah, I think like it always was. I mean, it was always the same question. Does music make people better? And sometimes perhaps we think too much about selling music and so on. And this is of course important if we want to survive as musicians and so on. If we, for example, if we want to continue making projects like this, it's important to somehow to bring the music to the public. But this element shouldn't be too overwhelming. We should be able to concentrate on music and hope that many people will hear and appreciate it.
Our journey has come to an end. Early music itself is so rich that one can hardly encompass all of it in a single show. I therefore invite you to explore the beauties of early music further. It has an immense ability to touch us in so many intricate ways. Just listen and you shall hear. Classics are timeless.